It's insane to think that we've been conditioned to love ourselves only on the amount of love that we receive. So it's not that we have self love or care for us, it's that we have envisioned how we love based on how we've been loved. What I mean by that is that we perceive the amount of love that we're giving to ourselves, how it should be given, or where it should be given based on the lack thereof or how someone made us feel. And the reality is that for a lot of us, we stay in that cycle because it's easier to stay there than it is to do anything else. And we struggle with this mountain of just knowing that we deserve love despite what we do, despite how we show up, despite what we have, despite what we bring to the table, despite anything. We deserve to be loved simply because we are. Who told you that you were unlovable, and why did you believe them? Like, was it a failed relationship or romantic partner where you were invested in this relationship and so into it and just caring about them and giving them to them, and they ruined what love is for you, or they treated you poorly, or they hurt you and physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually? Who told you that you were unlovable and you actually believed what they said? Was it your past traumas, the things that you've experienced, your family members, the people that have put you in things that have made you just feel like you're not worth love or worth loving? Has it been the wounds of comparison? Have you been the person that told you that you're not lovable because you don't do or provide or look like? Have you been the one that has been your biggest enemy? The reality is that for a lot of people, we have been our worst enemy. We've allowed ourselves to rob ourselves of the love we deserve because we think that we are not worthy of that love. And I get it. I'm not saying it's easy, but I do think it's important to understand where this comes from, because we can never heal from it if we've never identified it. And I've seen this, again, with the conversations that I've had with people that are going to be on the show, or that already have been, and just the comment sections in my videos whenever I post things on social media. It just shows us the reality that we're not the only ones struggling with this. Like, we're not the only ones that struggle to love themselves. We're not the only ones that struggle to believe or perceive themselves as a person that's dignified and worthy of love. And for a lot of people, they've been robbed of that. Not necessarily in a traumatic, super traumatic way. I mean, yes, possibly, right? That's also a thing. But for a lot of people, in the simplest ways, in the ways that they haven't realized it, in the ways that when you showed up for people, they didn't show up for you. When you poured into people, they didn't pour into you. When you were doing and stretching yourself thin for other people, they never reciprocated that. So what happens is that subconsciously or even consciously, we've integrated the way that those people have treated us with the way we think we should be treated. And this is where cutting those bridges and knowing your worth and separation is actually important. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not a fan of the culture of just cut everyone off and run away. I don't think that's effective or useful. I do think that is appropriate in certain times, but I think first we need to make sure and analyze that, is it them or is it me? Because it doesn't make sense to cut people off that are trying to be good to you and help you and serve you when it's just your past mistakes, your past wounds, your past trauma that you've been dealing with that you haven't been able to heal from. And then it's easy to just pawn it off and say, well, I don't want to change this, so I'm going to blame you. I want to be clear. I'm not for that culture. I don't think that's good or helpful for anyone. But I am for understanding that there are certain people in certain situations that do deserve for you to cut them off, for you to walk away. Why? Because they are not serving the version of you that deserves to be loved and cared for. They're more concerned with what they get from you. And this happens often, right? We've, again, equated the way that we feel we should be loved or cared for by their either attention or lack thereof. So we get into this vicious cycle that we think that this is the only way that that's going to happen. That the only way that I'm ever going to feel like I am deserving of something is based on the response that I get from those people. And this happens so often. This is dichotomy between the power in the relationship. It shifts to one side because now if I control how you feel, I control how you act. A lot of people have been stuck in that same rut. They've been stuck in that same cycle of just repeating the past traumas, the past mistakes, the past failures, the shortcomings from all those things, because it's easier to stay in the double I know than to go into something new, than to be able to completely change and make something different. If self-love feels fake to you, it's not because you're broken. It's because you were trained to believe being hard on yourself is normal. Like, you have been convinced that the only way to give yourself tough love is to be hard on you, is to push yourself in different ways. And the reality is that's not motivation, that's self-degradation. We're not looking at this from the scope of how do I push myself to be better. We're looking at it from the scope of how do I punish myself for not being better. And the biggest struggle there is that we made this into this terrible cycle of life that now we also equate that with other people. We think that if they don't do the same for us, that if they don't speak to us how we think we need to be spoken to, right? Because again, if we're tying this in to what we've been taught and conditioned, that is love, that we think that's how we're staying. This is why so many people stay in such vicious cycles. They stay in so many terrible things because it's so easy to just receive what you think you deserve. Now, listen to that clearly. It's so easy to receive what you think you deserve. So if you change what you think you deserve, if the way you think and perceive and act, again, I'm not saying it's easy. I never want people to think that you're going to wake up tomorrow and everything be perfectly fine. I'm saying there is a process to this. If we change the way we address these things, if we change the way we allow things to be addressed to us, if we change the way that people speak to us or allow them to speak to us, then we begin to change how we think. And this is an old saying, I'm going to mess it up probably, but if you change the way you think, you'll change the way you live. Right? If you're able to change the perception of what life is, or what you agree with, what you've allowed, you'll completely change yourself. Hating yourself is not change. Like choosing to look at the worst version of you and say, well, you are this and you are that. You will become your own biggest enemy. You become your own biggest critic when you were meant to be your own biggest cheerleader. When you do not motivate yourself by hating yourself. By self-degrading is not motivating, it's killing. And you don't allow things to grow and flourish in places that you have been so bad to you. I shared this before, and there was an IKEA study done, and I just real quick where they spoke to two different plants, and they said the same. They put them in the same room, same light, same food, all that stuff. But they spoke to one really poorly and one really well. And the one that was spoken to well grew and flourished, and the one that was spoken to poorly died and just became brown. If a plant can live off of the words it receives, how much more do you do? You that are sentient, are human, you can choose to dwell on things and grow in things or remain in things, and it's easy for you to stay there. But the reason that we think that self-hate is self-love is because we've been told that you should not be joyful or happy about you, that you should want to change. And I'm not saying don't want to change, because again, you should want to be better, you should want to progress, but you should also give yourself enough love and grace in the stages that you're in right now to know that those stages are for right now. And yes, I'm not saying don't motivate yourself to be better. Absolutely. Because that's the fullness of love. If you love yourself fully, you will push yourself to be better. But you know not to kill yourself, not to diminish you in the stages that you're in now, just in hopes of thinking that's motivation. That's not motivation. That again is attack. And yes, there is use for certain things like that. There is use for you feeling like this is the worst place to be in, and you're tired of being in that place. That's good. That's good motivation to no longer want to remain in a place that you know you don't belong. But it's not good motivation to sit here and destroy the character of who you are. The way we reshape that, the way we mention that. Yes, we're going to talk about the psychological components in a minute, but before we get there, just this reshaping that image, reshaping how we see that. It's knowing that I still have value and I still have worth, despite the fact that I'm not where I want to be, despite the fact that I'm not in the physical fitness that I want to be, that I'm not in the financial state that I want to be, that I'm not in the relationship that I want to be, I'm not in the career that I want to be. Despite those things, I still have worth and value. And my worth and value will never change if those things are in my life. So if I do better in my career, my worth and value doesn't change. If I get married, my worth and value doesn't change. If I get six-pack abs, my worth and value does not change. Because when we start basing our worth and value on what we do, we will never have worth and value because it will never be enough. You will never be able to do enough in this world that will change for you. And that's the point. Right? No matter the level of success, the peak that you hit, the mountain of loving yourself, you're struggling to love yourself, is always going to be there if you have given that mountain a position as to what you do. So if your success is depicting how much you love you, you will never be successful enough to love yourself fully. Because there's so much more. Like, you could be the best videographer in the world. You could be the best podcaster in the world. You could be the best accountant in the world. And even then, you should be pushing yourself to more. Because there is more. You might be the best in the world, but there's someone catching up to you. There's other people that are doing amazing things. There are other places that you need to be better. So what we do is that we put this goal, and there's something I've been working on, and I think the last episode was the one fallacy. And this is something that I've been coining. I haven't found it anywhere. If it exists, it's news to me. But I've been talking about the one fallacy, and we keep putting one in front of things. Like the reason that we don't succeed or we're not happy, we're not joyful is because we say when. So when I do this, when this happens, when I feel this way, when this, when that. We keep putting this fallacy of when because we think that that thing is going to happen. And when that thing happens, that's when you can do anything else. That's a lie. Knowing that you're going to progress and be better, that's good. That's who you are. That's the benefit of being you, of being able to change and adapt and grow. But those things do not depict the value and worth that you have. And if you keep saying when, then you'll never be. So that's just that reality, right? How do we reshape that? We understand that our self-worth and our value is not depicted on our successes. It's not depicted in the world around us, but it's just depicted in us, in who we are, and what we bring to the table, and the value that we have. It's not based on anything or anyone else. The truth is, if you spoke to your friends the way you speak to yourself, you wouldn't have any. So why not stay and start being your own friend? Like actually give yourself the encouragement. I say this often. Again, podcasts are always so good for this because there are things that we all know, right? Like there's things that I'm saying on this podcast that you've probably listened to and heard a million times and all these things. And you probably say it to other people. But sometimes we need someone else to tell us what we already know. Like we need someone else to help us walk through things and unpack things and just be aware of things that we already know. So whenever I talk to people about stuff like this, I always say to them, what would you say to you? Like, what would you, if you were me, right? We're switching roles and I was the one in your situation. I was the one that was struggling to feel love or to feel joy or to feel these things. If I was the one in your shoes, what's the advice you would give to me? And I always reverse it, and they'll give some amazing advice. They'd give some of the greatest advice in the world, and I'm like, that's amazing advice. Why don't you take it? Because it's easy for us to tell other people, but it's harder for us to receive it to ourselves. So this exercise of looking at your thing and giving yourself advice, telling yourself what would you do appropriately in there, and being able to step away, because what happens is sometimes we're so engulfed in things that those things become everything we think of. So stepping away from that, stepping out of that, allows you to really just be able to just be bold and honest with you. So what advice would you give yourself? For most of us, you're your own biggest enemy. When in reality, you were supposed to be your own biggest support system. You were supposed to be the one that cheers you on. You are the voice that you hear consistently, right? You are the person that is in your life and in your mind. Why is it that you have to be the one that kills you the most? And self-hate is a habit. Like, listen to, like, any habit, anything that we repeatedly do, we become, right? That old phrase. Your habits are your life. What habits you have will be the habits you become. And self-hate has become a habit for a lot of people. Like, it's easy to talk down to us. We talk down to ourselves. So that's why when other people do it too, we just allow it to roll off our shoulders. We stay in that because we are firm in us. It's easy to be hated when you don't love you. You perceive those things, and you think that that's the love you deserve, so that's the love you remain in. It's a habit. We need to break the habit of self-hate. We need to break the habit of degradation. We need to break the habit of making us the worst version of us just because someone told us that's what we were. You need to learn to love yourself in every struggle. Because again, the struggle doesn't define you. You define the struggle. What you do next, how you remove yourself, what you change, and that's where you change. That's where you grow. And the most powerful thing you will ever do, the most emotionally intelligent thing you will ever do is learn to have compassion for yourself. Like, learn to give yourself mercy and grace. Learn to live in something that was already given to you. Not because you're perfect, not because you haven't figured it out, but simply because you deserve it. And we are going to be the worst versions of ourselves if we keep depicting and depending our love on everything else, our self-worth on everything else, our value on everything else. We have to be our own biggest advocate. So what advice would you give that person? Like, you are in these shoes right now. You're struggling with this thing, whatever that thing is. What would you tell them? How would you walk with them? What would be the advice you would say to them? Would you tell them to be harder on themselves, or would you tell them to give themselves some grace? Would you look at them and say, you deserve what you got? Or would you look at them and say, you never deserved it? And if you were there and you're in this now, it doesn't mean that you remain in it. Do you continue to beat yourself down? Or do you tell them Things happen. We learn, we improve, and we change. But if we stay in this, if we continue to live in that kind of life, no one's going to hate you more than you. And the irony is that no one should love you more than you. You should be the one that's consistent with you. The best revenge you will ever have on someone who hurt you isn't revenge. It's loving yourself despite everything else. There are some people who hurt you and made you feel like you don't deserve love, or they tainted the image of love that you've had, or you wanted to give so much to them and pour so much into them that you overpoured, and now you feel like you have nothing left for anyone else. The greatest revenge that you will ever have on the person who hurt you is learning to love yourself so deeply that they never have access to you again. Is learning to be this version of you that's just content, that isn't miserable, isn't hurt, isn't dwelling in their pain, but is changing and persevering in everything else, because you didn't allow them to walk away with the love you deserved. You depicted it, you created it, you lived in it, because it's yours. And at this point, we can only demand the things that we believe we deserve. We will never be who we are. We'll never receive the love we deserve if we continue to stay in these things simply because we think that that's who we are. Unfortunately, a lot of people are living under what they deserve because they've allowed someone else to actually take that from them. You deserve the fullness of love. You deserve the completeness of what it is, not partiality. And this is every relationship, not romantic. Yes, again, easy picking, right? So they're low-hanging fruit. But every single relationship in your life, you deserve the fullness of those things. Those friendships, you deserve the fullness. The family members, you deserve the fullness. Yes, a romantic relationship, you deserve the fullness. Every relationship deserves the full version of you and the full version of it. I refuse to love me less just because some people couldn't appreciate it. Like the reality of my value or the lack thereof of their love. They couldn't depict that, right? They couldn't change that in me. So I refuse to allow people that didn't have the fullness of me to tell me that I'm not capable of receiving full love. Learning to love yourself isn't just liking what you look like or what you have or what you value. It's learning that everything you do flows from who you are. It's understanding these three things. One, that no one is going to save you and no one is responsible for you except you. Like there's no one in this world who's going to come into your life and love you so much and pour into you so fully that you are going to feel full and whole, that there's nothing that anyone else can do for you that you shouldn't have already done for you. Because if you give them the power to do that, then you rob yourself of the power to live in it. Two, it isn't your job to be liked. This is a big one. It's not your job to be liked. You don't have to change or mold or be different than who you are to fit into places so that somebody can like you. If they don't like you, then you have been given a gift. You have been removed from a place that you thought you needed to be in for something that you just don't have to. It's not your job to get people to like you. The people that love you will love you fully for you, not for what you do, for what you provide, simply because you are. Those are the people that you need in your life. And they might be many or might be few, but whatever it is, they won't change how you view you. And three, life will continue whether you enjoy it or not. Like, this is the scary thing, that life is going to keep going. Life is going to continue, it's going to keep moving, it's going to keep changing. Whether you choose to love your life or enjoy it or be the best version of it or not, it's still going to keep going. The only thing you're doing is wasting the time. The only thing you're doing is sitting through this thing and knowing that there's potential and possibility of something more, but not living in that. You have the choice today, right now, to say, I'm going to live in something full. Like, I'm not going to stay in the cycle of hurt because I've been hurt, but I'm going to live in the fullness of who I am. This is our reality, right? We have the choices to do more and to be more and to act like we deserve more, or the opposite, right? We have the choices to live under. We have the choices to remain in this thing. This mountain of loving yourself is never going to move unless you finally identify, one, the wounds that have happened to you, where they stem from, who told you that you couldn't be loved, two, knowing that you have value and worth despite anything else, three, shifting your mind, being able to think and change and be and change that introspective about you before anything else. And three, that life is going to continue. Like, the reality is that we either continue to do the same thing or we change. We can't want things to be different and continue to stay in the same place. For a lot of us, it isn't confidence that we lack, it's self-love. And there's a huge difference between the two. And I wanted to break this down just a little bit too, because it's easily confused as confidence. Like, there are a lot of people who are very confident but don't fully love themselves. And I know it sounds a little bit like Like, it's contradictory, right? Because for you to be confident, you need to know that everything is based on you. And I'm actually going to give you a definition, right? So confidence is a belief in your ability to do a thing. It's skill-based, situation-specific, and grows from reps and results. It answers, can I? Self-love, however. Self-love, regard, respect, and care for yourself regardless of your performance. It's identity level and stable. It answers, am I worthy even if I can't? So, first of all, there's two things that we need. We need to be confident, but we also need to love ourselves fully. Confidence, but this is a beauty because confidence builds to self-love. Right, so this is the entry point to self-love. The confident me is the one that enters into the self-love me. So we talked about habits, right? Building your habit and being able to know that self-hate is a habit, self-love is a habit. That same way, confidence is built by repetition. Like your habits, that becomes your confidence. Like, what's a great example of this? A piano, right? So I've played piano for a number of years in my life, right? And I'm not the greatest. It's not my main instrument. I just learned it. Well, the reason I really learned it was because I wanted to impress a girl. My first song ever was Casey and JoJo on the piano. And I started like going on YouTube and just learning songs. And as I went into like the worship atmosphere and ministry, I picked up a little bit more. I got a little bored. I'm a drummer, so you don't always want to be loud. But the way that I became confident in playing certain things was repetition, is learning to play over and over and over again. And that was a habit that was built, right? So I knew where my hands would land. I knew I could look up and talk and do all these things and still play at the same time because it was already a repetitive thing in me. That's the same concept with anything, with any emotion, with any action in ourselves. If we know that we have a negative thought, right? And we don't address that thought. We let it linger. We let it marinate. We let it ruminate. We let that thing be something stronger. If we don't address it, it's going to stay. It will remain in that same place. Why? Because the habit was that the thought appeared. I knew the thought appeared, and I decided to turn away from it. Didn't address it. Didn't change it. Nothing became different. So I'm confident in myself. I know that I've practiced this ability. But when that thought lingered in my mind, that thing stayed. Self-love is knowing that even if I couldn't do the thing, even if I couldn't play the piano, that I still have worth. Right? That my worth is not dictated on my ability to do a thing. It's dictated on who I am already. It's based on me and not on it. And this is a mountain that I feel like remains in a lot of people's lives for a long time. So I don't want to, again, never want to make it seem as if this is going to be something that tomorrow it's going to be easily automatically fixed. It's not just going to change overnight, but it is something that we're able to address. And the reason a lot of people struggle with this for a long time is because this mountain shows up in different places. It's not just how I see myself, right? Because like, some people, it might be physical. They might see themselves in the mirror and not like who they are, so they learn to not love them because society has told them that they shouldn't love that person. Again, I'm not saying don't change. I'm not saying don't work. I'm not saying don't grow. I'm saying to love the stages that you're in because you know your worth and your value, not the worth and value that's dictated or anything else. So for a lot of people, it'll change in categories. It might be how they look, or it might be their finances, or it might be their relationships, and it might pop up in different places. But when this habit of loving yourself is firm, every situation that pops up in, every mountain that comes into, it changes. You're able to address it fully. You're able to look at that thing and say, well, okay, it's bad. I'm going to do something about it. But that does not depict me. That does not tell me who I am and what I'm worth. That's not all of me.